have a huge book haul to share with everyone. I went to J.H. Gordon Books and The City and the City Books in downtown Hamilton. Hamilton is an underrated literary hub, I believe. There are so many great bookstores here, and they seem to be opening up new ones every few months. There's a newer bookstore within walking distance of my house called Love Books, and they only accept cash. So next time I have cash, I'm going to walk over there and buy some books. I have 4 other bookstores I want to visit downtown, so I had to cut myself off because I was spending too much money. But let's talk about what I got. This is Graham Greene's It's a Battlefield. I've been reading a lot of memoirs by writers and a lot of memoirs by people who grew up in the 60s and 70s. And a lot of these individuals mention Graham Greene as an inspiration, as someone who was very iconoclastic during that time period. And so I would like to read one of his books, and I was going to grab the Brighton Rock, Under Brighton Rock, by Brighton Rock. I was going to grab that because it is one of his more popular titles, but the plot just didn't sound interesting to me, so I went through all of the options they had. This was at J.H. Gordon, and I picked this one. It sounded interesting. It's about a communist bus driver who has been sentenced to death for killing a policeman during a political riot. I also got About a Boy by Nick Hornby because it was $2, and I love this movie. I went with my friend Sonia to go book shopping, and I asked her, like, have you ever read a book after watching the movie? And she was like, I do that all the time. So I felt very validated in my idiosyncratic nature, and I am going to read this because I love this movie. I love reading a story that is familiar to me, especially before bed. I find it very soothing, and this is like a very comforting story. This was actually a recommendation from Sonia, The Alchemist. I have been recommended this often by men, but I don't like to take men's recommendations. So when Sonia told me to read it, I was like, absolutely. I also think this is a very beautiful cover, and it is a very, very tiny book. So she said it's like a little challenging, a little dense, but worth it, and I completely take her at face value for that. So I am going to read this soon, probably. This sounded really interesting to me, and I thought it was a cute cover. It's called The List by Tara Ison. It's about a couple who breaks up. It's a classic breakup story, but once they are ready to say goodbye, they decide to make a list of 10 things they want to do before they, depart and never see each other again. And again, it's a shorter read. It just looks really cute. I don't love romance books, but I do like books that explore breakups and messy relationships and loneliness and finality and saying goodbye and grief in relationships. So it looks like it falls into that category, and I am excited for that. I was so excited to find this in the used book section. I think this was at City and the City, Cleopatra and Frankenstein. This is about a painter who moves in with a much older man who offers to fund her lifestyle and her desires, and how that can sometimes be a slippery slope. There's an excerpt at the top that says it's very similar to Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney, which wasn't my favorite of Sally Rooney's, but I find that as I get older, I have a wider capacity for more meditative novels and more dialogue heavy novels. So I am enjoying Sally Rooney's writing more than I did when I was in my early 20s. So I think this is a good time for me to read this book. I think this is the book that I'm most excited for. This is Doppelganger by Naomi Klein. I have heard Lauren Louise on YouTube recommend this, and many others, honestly. Many other people who I definitely trust in terms of taste and book recommendations. And this is all about doppelgangers. This is nonfiction, which I find really interesting. And I believe Naomi Klein is a journalist, so it's going to have that Truman Capote-esque writing that I really enjoy. Freakonomics, Tipping Point-esque. I love books like that. And we were all really really impressed. I think this is something my mom would really like, so once I finish it, I will lend it to her. This is a book that I finally bought, not because of the cover, because I think the cover is, sorry, it's ugly, but because of the plot. It is about a therapist who finds one of her patients hanging themselves, and they were not successful in doing so, and then they seem to spark up a romance. Hey, what's going on there? I think this is not a local author, but maybe a Canadian author. No, it's not. It is not at all. Oh, yeah, it is. Born in Montreal. This is a Canadian author, and I am excited to read it. They compared her writing to Leonard Cohen's, which is like, whoa, that's like huge praise. So I am curious. This is Flights by Olga Tokarczuk. Again, Lauren Louise on YouTube loves Olga Tokarczuk. I do know that she has been weaning off of her because there was a slight controversy because Olga Tokarczuk says that she uses ChatGPT to bounce ideas off of when she's writing books or something along those lines, which is actually the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. But she can write a book. She can write a book. I have struggled with her books in the past. I think I've only tried one of her books because they are very, very long and they're very, very dense. Flights was a little bit shorter. The one next to it was Books of Jacob, which was huge. This one is under 400 pages. So I want to give her another shot. I don't want to support her any further, which is why I buy used books, because you never know what the author did. So just to be safe, I do recommend visiting thrift stores and used bookstores when you're going to buy your books. Or, even better, go to the library. I took the dust jacket off of this one because I thought the green color story here was very inspirational. And look at the little butterfly. This is Barbara Kingsolver's Prodigal Summer. I recently read Demon Copperhead, and it was one of the best books I've ever read. I think that like Appalachian masculine tone that Barbara is able to take on is so impressive and so endearing and so real. There were parts of Demon Copperhead that I deeply related to and parts that really sucked me in, and I love how she writes. I love how she immerses herself in her characters and embodies them completely. So I am very excited to read this. I have a coworker who also loves Barbara Kingsolver, and I will report back to him if I love this book as much as he does. I got No Country for Old Men at Value Village. I don't, maybe I'm out of the loop. I had no clue this was written by Cormac McCarthy, and I thought The Road was okay. It's a bit oversold by men who haven't read in a while, but I like this movie, although while watching this movie I often think this would be better as a book. Same with what's that movie? I Drink Your Milkshake. I drink it right up. You know that movie? That movie would also be better as a book. And if you can remember the title of that movie, please comment it down below, because I cannot right now. Last but never least, this book is called Eat the Document. This is another one where I was going purely off of the blurb on the back. It is about a love story of activists, of radical protesters who must erase their past in order to avoid being locked up in prison, meaning they have to separate from one another. So they are very deeply in love, but in order to protect their own identities and their futures, they do have to come apart. Fast forward a couple decades, Mary's living in the suburbs with her son, who's now 15. She doesn't know whether her love of her life, Bobby, is alive or dead. What's going on? Is he gonna come back into the picture? I don't know. I was intrigued. Thank you so much for watching. Read more books. It makes you a better person.